Hello everyone, bringing you a video today talking about the NBC Facelet, which is an odd bit of British NBC kit. I mentioned previously when looking at the S10 respirator and its haversack contents, and a few people mentioned they'd never seen it, and it does seem to have been in use for a relatively short time period in the 80s and early 90s. More information on the dates of exactly when it was issued would be useful because I don't actually have concrete dates, but I do have a selection from quite a few years manufacture, and we'll look at those in the video. It's essentially a face mask which can be worn in lieu of the respirator when there's a very low level threat of NBC agents. So we'll have a look at the Facelet now in a little bit more detail.
So what we're going to look at first here is a pack as they were issued, and you can see this contains a paper label mask and harness pack, Facelet NBC L1A1. This is 1986 dated, as you can see there. We'll open this up. Yeah. The paper label is just loose in there, as you can see. So the outer bag and the paper label will put to one side. You get 3 facelets. And you have the user instructions on the front here. Pause here if you wish to read that. And then you get a separate harness, which has a nylon piece to go over the crown of the head. That is stamped as well separately. Harness Facelet NBC L1A1, made by Remploy. Brief note about Remploy here. Remploy was a series of factories. It was a company operating a series of factories employing disabled workers. It's somewhat changed in recent years, but still exists, and it now just sort of advocates and supports disabled workers in industry at large and in the workplace at large, as opposed to running its own factories. But that's is quite common to see on British military kit and clothing at this time. Is Remploy in the 1980s. Very common to see. You can see 1986 on there again. So that's the harness. In order to look at one of these in more detail, I'll actually bring in another example here. Are 2 other examples to look at in terms of date range. The 1986 we have there, with a separately packaged harness there. I'll put that to one side. We have a 1984 dated. It's on here somewhere. Oh, that's the 1990s dated one. Sorry, this is October 1984. As you can see in the corner there. This is an open example. It's also stamped on the facelet itself, or there's a label, printed label on the facelet itself, as you can see there. And then towards the end of the date range, we have a 1990 dated example, as you can see there. I believe these were introduced during the 80s and then were used through into the 90s. Not quite sure when they went out of use, but perhaps someone could clarify that if they know. So we have the facelet here, and you can see we have a slightly deteriorated but a foam pad in the top there, which is supposed to go uppermost. And then you basically clip the harness on to these using the press studs here. Got it the wrong way out, but using the press studs, they just snap. So you have all that adjustability there from the 4 press studs on each point. Now, I just put that to one side as well, and we bring in here Survive to Fight, the 2nd edition of Survive to Fight. This covers the use of the facelet, and you can see here, facelet. If order, put on as follows: pull back the jacket hood, open with foam strip uppermost, place under the chin, pull harness overhead, check harness pad is on crown of head. And then moving to the 2nd page, detailing this: adjust straps to make firm, comfortable fit. Bend foam strip to obtain an efficient seal around nose. Pull up hood. So the purpose of the facelet is to give a modicum, or the intention is to give a modicum of NBC protection, and where the respirator is not required, or in place of the respirator until the NBC threat increases. And just put this together as it would be worn, roughly speaking. You can see how this comes together to make the head harness and facelet there. Now this may seem a slightly odd thing, slightly odd way of doing things. You can see why I thought this was a bit topical at the moment. It is essentially a face mask. You can see it's made of of this impregnated cloth. It has, I believe, charcoal in between the two layers of cloth. It does have a wire inside here. You can see if I deform that, much as surgical masks do, or these paper masks you can buy now. Well, they've been around for a long time, but obviously everyone's wearing them at the moment. That can be bent over the bridge of the nose. So, as I say, slightly odd design, but these were actually used during the First Gulf War. It's certainly seen in period footage when the British Army reached what was referred to as the Highway of Death, with very good reason. It was essentially the escape route from Iraqi forces from Kuwait City, and they'd been under heavy air attack. Many vehicles were destroyed, many Iraqis were killed, and men clearing bodies can be clearly seen wearing the facelet. So there we are, that's the NBC Facelet, a strange little bit of kit to be sure, but an interesting part of Britain's Cold War NBC kit. As I say, I'm not entirely sure on the date these went out of service. I'm not aware that they're still in use. I believe they went out of service a little while ago, but if anyone has any clarification on that, I'd be very interested to know. As I say, an interesting bit of Britain's Cold War NBC kit that I thought it would be worth taking a look at.
And of course the video would not be complete without me demonstrating the facelet. As you can see here, unfortunately the wire, or the metal strip over the nose here, has twisted over the years, so it's not very comfortable, and it's not a very good fit over the nose there. But essentially this is what the NBC facelet looks like when it's worn. Nicknamed the duck mask for obvious reasons, but there we go, the NBC facelet. I'm going to take this off now. I hope you found it interesting looking at that, as I always say. If you have and you'd like to see more from the channel, please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the little notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you'd like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below, and a huge thank you, as ever, to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. It really is greatly appreciated, as I always say. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. If you'd like to get in touch but you don't use social media, there is of course an email address down there as well. But that's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.